Welcome to the Man of Recaps. This is Loki Season 2. At the end of Season 1, Loki and Sylvie met the mysterious man behind the TVA, He Who Remains. We know he's Kang. Sylvie wanted to free the timeline from the TVA's rule, so she killed him. She kicked Loki back to the TVA, where his new best friend Mobius doesn't remember him. And Loki has another problem. Wow, he's slipping through time. He's slipping between the present TVA and the past TVA when He Who Remains still had a statue of himself before he rebranded as the Timekeepers. In the present TVA, the sacred timeline has been branching. They've got a multiverse now. Now that they know the Timekeepers are fake, they've stopped pruning branches, gonna let them grow. Now Loki slips back to the present and fills them in about He Who Remains, and gives them the bad news about these new timelines. All the Kang variants will have a multiversal war that destroys everything. But first they gotta stop Loki's time slipping, so they go down to maintenance and meet Ouroboros, Obi for short. He doesn't know how to stop time slipping, but Loki just slipped to the past and filled him in, so he had a long time to work on it, and oh, I do know how to stop it. They go to the core of the TVA, the temporal loom. Mobius has to venture outside and shoot an anchor into the timeline. Then Loki has to prune himself, but oh, he slips away right now and is desperately searching for a prune stick. And he's surprised to find Sylvie in an elevator, then whoa, he's pruned from behind. More on this later. But anyway, it works, and Loki's back, anchored in the present. So Loki and Mobius take a pie break to figure out what to do next, while their other friends, Hunter B-15 and the tech Casey, go down to see Obi and help him out. But one TVA general goes off on a mission to hunt down Sylvie, so Loki and Mobius gotta track down one of her hunters who has now left for a life on the timeline as a 70s movie star. They convince him to tell them Sylvie's location. She's working at a McDonald's in the 1980s. So our Loki variant lovebirds have a chat. The TVA needs your help. I don't care, I just want to live a normal life. But right now, that rogue general is trying to prune this timeline as well as a bunch of others, so Sylvie has to help put a stop to that. Now there's a new problem with Judge Renslayer, who's working with Miss Minutes on a contingency plan from He Who Remains. They drop a TVA handbook into the window of this kid from the 1800s. Loki and Mobius follow her trail, which leads to the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. That kid has grown up into Victor Timely, an eccentric inventor who Loki recognizes as a variant of He Who Remains. So all our time travelers are fighting to get him. It turns into a whole thing. Sylvie wants to kill him so he can't become another He Who Remains, but he's like, yo, that guy wasn't me. And as a variant herself, Sylvie understands, so she lets him live and kicks Renslayer out of there. Now they need Victor Timely's help to save the TVA because the temporal loom is overloading. It wasn't designed to handle multiple timelines. He's excited to meet the Ouroboros who wrote the TVA handbook, but turns out Obi only wrote it based on notes from Victor Timely. Whoa, time paradox. So together they invent the science thing that will let the loom have multiple timelines. Meanwhile, Renslayer and Miss Minutes are at the end of time, where Miss Minutes fills her in on who she was before the TVA. She was his top general, who basically won the Kang War for him. They were supposed to rule the sacred timeline together, but he erased her memory just like everyone else's, so now she's real mad. She and Miss Minutes capture Victor Timely. They're gonna lead a TVA coup. Loki's running to stop them, but first he runs into his past self, so oh, he prunes himself. Classic time paradox. Now they save Victor Timely. Sylvie mind controls the movie star who prunes Renslayer. But remember, when you're pruned, you're just sent to the end of time, so Renslayer's still kicking around out there. But now they gotta rush to do the science thing to stop the temporal loom from overloading. Victor Timely goes out there for his big hero moment, but oh, it doesn't work. He's ripped to shreds. Yeah, they just took too long, and now the loom explodes and the TVA is destroyed. But Loki's okay. For some reason, he starts time slipping again. He slips to a jet ski store. Yeah, remember Mobius loves jet skis. His real life was a jet ski salesman. Loki's like, Mobius, I need your help to save the timeline. But it's like, who's Mobius? My name's Dawn. Now Loki slips over to Obi, who's not a scientist. He's a failed science fiction writer. But he does have a degree in theoretical physics, so he's able to learn about time travel from the TVA handbook that he would eventually write, Time Paradox. So in a few years of his time, but 1 minute of Loki's, Obi invents a tempat and they go back to see Mobius. It's like, dude, I know you have a life and kids, but you're the only one who can save the multiverse. And you won't miss anything, because with time travel, we'll bring you right back here when it's all done. So Loki recruits all his friends from their lives on the timeline, but his last recruit is Sylvie, who doesn't want to help. She's like, the multiverse is better off without the TVA. But turns out it's not. Without the temporal loom powering the timelines, they're all fading away. And so this is it. It's the end of everything until Loki learns to control his time slipping. He travels back to the moment they're saving the loom like, yo, we gotta go faster this time. And so it's time for a classic time loop where Loki redoes this over and over again, but it always fails. So Loki tries going back earlier in the day to help them invent the science thing faster. Finally, he realizes it'll just be faster if they teach him how to build it. They're like, we don't have time for that. But he's like, trust me, we do. And so centuries later, we catch up with Master Scientist Loki, who's able to get him out there real quick. He guides them through all the problems that have gone wrong over thousands of loops. But this one is it! They actually do it! The day is saved! Except it's not. The loom is still overloading. They realize because the timelines are growing infinitely, no matter how much they increase the loom's capacity, it will never be enough. So now Loki has to go back even further to the end of season 1 and stop Sylvie from killing He Who Remains. He tries to tell her killing him won't work, it just ends up destroying the universe. But this past Sylvie doesn't believe him. She always goes and kills him anyway. Eventually, He Who Remains steps in. So Loki, how many loops is this for you? Yeah, he's aware of the whole situation. He explains how the temporal loom overloading is part of its design so that even if he dies, it'll lead them right back here. He's like, look, Loki, you can't save the multiverse. The only options are the TVA with My Sacred Timeline or nothing. But Loki comes up with one other option, a drastic one, but the only way to save his friends. He walks on out there himself. Yeah, remember, as an Asgardian god, he can take it. He destroys the loom before it can overload, but this still leaves all the timelines dying. But they don't need the energy from the loom. Loki can power them with his own magic. But it won't last without him holding them. Loki has to stay out here. So he grabs all the timelines and takes the throne at the end of time, which ironically was Loki's original selfish plan to take the throne and rule all of time, but instead, Loki finds his new glorious purpose is not to rule, but to protect. He uses himself to power the timelines, allowing a multiverse to flourish. In fact, this new multiverse looks like a tree, Yggdrasil, the world tree of Norse mythology. And so the TVA has rebuilt with a rebooted, non-evil Miss Minutes. And their new mission is not to prune timelines, but to let them flourish and just keep an eye on it. Specifically, they're watching for any Kang variants to nip any multiversal wars in the bud. Everything seems to be under control, and so Agent Mobius is ready to retire. Time to go home to his sons and his sea-doos. And Sylvie is now finally free to go live whatever normal life she wants. But this happy ending is bittersweet because it's all made possible by Loki, our new god of time, sacrificing himself by sitting here for eternity, a real lonely existence. And that's how Loki Season 2 comes to an end. If you liked this recap, hit that subscribe button for more of the best recaps of TV and movies.